Hello, everyone. My name is Simin Curtis, and I run the American Middle East Institute. We are an organization that works to build business, educational, and cultural connections to the countries of the Middle East. And we are delighted to be having our first virtual trade mission to the UAE in partnership with Danny Sebright and his organization, the U.S. U.A.E. Business Council. We are also delighted to have join with us today His Excellency Abdalla Shaheen, who is the Consul General of the United Arab Emirates. He's based in New York and handles the U.S. U.A.E. bilateral relationship and helps to expand business and cultural ties in New York and the Eastern U.S. region. So welcome, Consul General.
Thank you.
Shaheen. I should say you also work with business corporations, government officials, are a resource for UAE nationals residing in the East Coast and East Coast area. And I also wanted to mention your work on Expo 2020, which I know you've worked closely with Her Excellency Reem Al Hashimi, the UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation. And we're all excited about Expo 2020. I know it's been moved to 2021, but that will truly be an amazing event once we're all able to travel due to this, the restrictions of the COVID-19 are lifted. Well, it will be a new day for all of us, and we're looking forward to that. I also wanted to mention your service to His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. I know you were his Deputy Chief of Staff and had worked on many important projects for His Highness. And we're delighted that you could be here today representing the UAE. We will also be joined shortly by our mayor, the mayor of Pittsburgh, Honorable Bill Peduto. He's been the mayor since 2013, and he should be joining shortly. He was Pittsburgh's 60th mayor, and he's going to make a few remarks about Pittsburgh, and also the fact that he came with us on the delegation we brought a year and a half ago to the UAE, and it was a great experience. We brought many robotics companies, healthcare, advanced manufacturing. We were able to make some important connections, and honestly, everyone was very excited about the kinds of friendships we built and that are continuing. And there's some exciting projects that are in the works that have to do with the UAE. Educational platforms, manufacturing projects. It's very exciting, and I can't emphasize enough that it's so important to actually meet people in person. Of course, we can't do that now, but in general, all of this will pass, I'm confident. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is to work to build these relationships, to get to know people in person, to extend hospitality to visitors who come from the UAE or from some of the other countries we work with. That is essential. And as I say, what grew out of our mission to the UAE is continuing to flower. And that also leads me to introducing Danny Sebright, who is as I mentioned, the president of the U.S. U.A.E. Business Council. I have said in the previous sessions we've had today that Danny leads one of the best business councils around, and I am pleased to be working with him on mounting this webinar and also projects we've worked on and will continue to work on into the future. Danny was he was appointed in 2008 as president of the U.S. U.A.E. Business Council. He has done a great deal of government service. He was at the Geostrategic Advisory Firm, the Cohen Group. He also worked for the Department of Defense as the Director of Policy Executive Secretariat for the Global War on Terrorism. And he served in the Office of the Undersecretary for Policy at the Department of Defense and has advised the Defense Department on the Middle East peace process, arms sales, all kinds of initiatives. And so we're glad to have Danny here, very experienced professional, as part of this webinar. So, so Danny, shall I turn it over to you, or why don't you tell me?
Consul General Shaheen, do you want to say a few words now? And then I know you have to leave in a minute or two, and then if you want to call in when the mayor's on, you can. I'm sorry that it's not working out the way we thought, but I want to give you the opportunity to speak next if you want to say something, please.
No, please go ahead, Danny. I will have to leave, but I will join in phone in a few minutes later on. But
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you, Simin, for the great introduction.
Oh, absolutely. Is there anything you would like to say besides? Is there anything you would like to say about the UAE? Maybe reiterate something you mentioned in our first session about the opportunity, just the general opportunities in the United Arab Emirates.
Well, the only highlight that I would like to probably put it in 1 minute. You probably heard of the government reshuffle that just happened a week back. And that tells you how the UAE is actually is taking on track and updating kind of like post-COVID on what can be done and where can we actually take it further. So the main important thing that the government actually did is assigning 2 ministers, a Minister of State for SMEs and Minister of State for Foreign Trade.
Oh, perfect.
Along with a Minister of Economy. So 3 ministers in the Ministry of Economy, that actually sends a big message and tells you that is actually the UAE is keen to actually support and to invest further and more into economy and businesses and trade.
Fantastic.
And
Fantastic.
I'm very, very sorry, Simin, but I will have to leave. I'll call in a few. Okay,
well, we were delighted to have you earlier at the overview segment, and we appreciate knowing you, and we look forward to continuing our conversation and working with you in the future.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Danny. I'll leave it with you now.
All the best. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
All right, Simin. All right, Simin, if you can hear me okay, I'm just going to say a few words to get started here before the mayor comes on. And Mary is going to give the main portion of the briefing. But Mary, the minute the mayor comes on, we're going to jump off. We're going to be quiet and let Simin introduce the mayor. So let me just say that the Business Council is very, very pleased to be able to partner with you, Simin, and your team with Maria and others. We've very much enjoyed the previous interactions and engagements we've had over the last number of years. And as I've said on the earlier sessions, Pittsburgh is just a key priority for us. This part of Pennsylvania, the tech that's going on, the triangle, if you will, of tech, research, government, and corporation is just very, very important and very fruitful in the Pittsburgh area. And we very much appreciate the opportunity to work with you in telling your companies and your institutions more about the opportunities for them to partner with Emirati business and Emirati institutions. The advanced manufacturing session is that we're working on right now, or that we're presenting to you right now, is a relatively new area in the UAE. In the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say. We've been engaged and involved with key institutions there from the very beginning of this. We're working very closely with sovereign wealth institutions like Mubadala, with institutions like the Dubai Future Foundation, and some key companies, if you will, on the ground that are involved in this as well. That's a perfect segue for me to turn the screen over to you, Simin, and the mayor, and we'll let Mary do the full briefing in a few minutes. Mayor Peduto, great to see you again. Saw you out in Pittsburgh last fall, then in New York City at the UN meeting. So great to see you. Take care.
Nice. Nice to see you as well.
Hello, Mayor Bill.
Hi.
Mayor Bill Peduto, nice to see you. Thank you for joining our advanced manufacturing segment.
Thank you.
I can't say enough about what an engaged mayor Mayor Peduto is. He's the most down-to-earth person you can imagine, and no one loves this city more than Mayor Bill does. And you have really raised the profile of our city. There's so many good things happening here. It's a community that really cares about. We care about each other, and we're connected. We're not a giant city. We're a medium-sized city, and you can feel that connectivity. And Mayor Peduto is really at the forefront of that, and a great voice for our region and for our city specifically. You were elected in 2013. You were Pittsburgh's 60th mayor. You have done many different projects to build Pittsburgh's reputation. I know that you've been involved in this, the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the Pennsylvania Municipal League initiatives, many more, too many to name. As I say, a very involved mayor, and I was so proud to be able to have you be part of our delegation to the UAE about a year and a half ago. And you spoke at our conference. You were such an inspiration about the story of Pittsburgh and a lot of the things that are actually we have in common with the UAE. And so without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to you, and thank you for being part of our webinar today.
Thanks, Tim, and I do appreciate this and the opportunities you provide to the city of Pittsburgh in building relations within the Middle East. One of the areas where I think that Pittsburgh has a very strategic opportunity with UAE is in the field of advanced manufacturing. As we look at the city that built America, I mean, we built every bridge, every skyscraper. We supplied the cars or the steel to build cars and ships and every other part during the past century and a half. We understand that legacy is also a part of our future. But what we also understand is that technology is part of our present. The combination between robotics, artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and the future of manufacturing is happening right now in Pittsburgh. And as we look at strategic partners throughout the world, we look to UAE as a partner that we could be very involved with. A country that understands that the world is changing, a country that is a part of being able to see the importance of heritage and tradition, but also understands that it's a global society today. The city of Pittsburgh has been partnering with many different corporations from around the world in what advanced manufacturing will look like. Everything from robotics companies that do processing of warehouses to the ability to create micro robots that are able to crawl on your heart during open heart surgery to monitor your arteries. Everything that you can think about is basically changing and advancing, and we want to be a part of that transition. We don't only want to be a part of it, we want to be able to provide the research and development to create it and the ability to build it. Now, there are other areas in the country that can claim one or the other. They can say that they are far advanced with their universities and the research and development of what advanced manufacturing may look like in the future, or they can claim to be a part of a heritage of having built things. Pittsburgh is one of those unique cities that can claim both. Before President Obama left office, the last act that he did as the President of the United States was to create the Advanced Manufacturing Center in Pittsburgh, a $250 million investment through the Department of Defense, partnering with Carnegie Mellon University, that involves over 100 corporations from throughout the world, based in the United States, over a dozen advanced research institutions, and in a partnership building out a center that will help to identify what manufacturing looks like in the future. When you put all of that together with our corporate community, our universities, the partnership with government, and you realize the size of Pittsburgh is a very small city, we can actually make things happen. But at that same time, the world will notice. And I think that is one of the competitive advantages that this city provides. We have the talent, which is the infrastructure of the 21st century, and we have the history and the heritage of being able to make things, to be able to create what the future of manufacturing will look like.
Thank you so much, Mayor Peduto. We appreciate the inspiring remarks you've made about Pittsburgh, and we're so glad that you're open to these kinds of international initiatives that we're working on. You're up for anything, and that means a lot. You know, as leader of a city like ours, that means a lot, and you're ready to build these connections right along with all of us here. And I thank you very much.
Yeah, I would just add one thing, Simin. This type of a partnership is something that we have also within city government have built out the infrastructure to be able to make happen. So we're here to assist you in being able to provide the manpower and the woman power to actually do a lot of the work that you need done on the ground level to be able to bring the other critical partners together with it. We've actually brought back our sister city program, and not only that, but brought staff in as well to be able to handle these types of opportunities on an international basis. We are partnering right now with the city of our house and creating a opportunity for small localized energy distribution throughout our city. And we're also partnering with Glasgow in Scotland in doing a pilot program on sustainability. So something like this is something that we can not only pursue, but actually assist and providing the people to make sure that it happens.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I look forward to many partnerships that we're building with Danny's help with the UAE. There are some coming down on the horizon that we're excited about, and I know you'll be a part of it. As I say, you're always up for anything, and I was thrilled that you could lead our delegation to the UAE in, I guess it was late 2018. And that was a great experience, and it has brought a lot of projects to the fore, and some of them very exciting that we are looking forward to in 2021. And so thank you again, Mayor Peduto, for being part of today's discussion. And I wanted to add that if anyone has questions, there is a Q&A button at the bottom, and you can ask your questions, and we might save some of those for the end. But I think now I'm going to turn it over to Danny, and we'll continue.
Mayor Peduto, if I could just say, thank you, Simin. If I could just say, the Consul General from New York for the UAE, Abdalla Shaheen, was on just before you came on. He had to jump off for a prior commitment, but he wanted to express his kind regards. He has responsibility for Pittsburgh from Pennsylvania from his vantage point in New York City as the Consul General, and he's looking forward to making a visit soon and to being involved when we can all travel again, and to being involved very much in some of the things that Simin referred to in the year ahead in advanced manufacturing in this high-tech sector, if you will. And we would very, very much like to facilitate a meeting between himself and you when we can get him out to Pittsburgh on a visit sometime in the next number of months.
I would be honored to welcome him to Pittsburgh and to help to put together a tour so that he can actually see the things that I was just talking about. They're happening, they're real, and I think it would be very beneficial for him to be able to see where Pittsburgh and UAE can partner.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started with our presentation from the broader perspective of the UAE's interest in advanced manufacturing. If we could go to the slideshow, please. I'm just going to start real quickly with a slide or two and then turn it over to my colleague, Mary Zuccarello, who's watching this vertical for us and tracking it very carefully at the Business Council. We're the bilateral trade organization between the U.S. and the UAE, responsible for all of the U.S. market and all of the UAE market and providing better understanding between our two countries in business verticals and opportunities. If we could go to slide 2 real quick, and then Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you on slide 3. We've been engaged with the Emiratis in the last 4 or 5 years, 3 to 5 years, as they've started pivoting in their economic diversification program to a bigger, broader, more specific focus on this sector. The United Arab Emirates has long viewed the growth of its manufacturing sector as a key component of its economic diversification strategy. Over the past several decades, the UAE has become an important producer of metals, such as aluminum and steel, building materials, including cement, ceramics, and glass. At the same time, it's become a significant manufacturer of aerospace and defense equipment, petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, food and beverages, and a wide variety of consumer goods. The petrochemical industry in particular, given that it is one of the 5 top producers of oil and carbon-based energy in the world, is also very keen, has a very keen focus for being on the downstream high end of the petrochemical industry. And they're always looking for partnerships with the right American companies. One of Mubadala's subsidiaries actually has an investment in the Pittsburgh area in Nova Chemical. The UAE boasts several strategic advantages that contribute to its success as a manufacturing hub: its location, its world-class infrastructure, and its incredibly business-friendly environment. The UAE is building on these advantages to develop local industry, boost foreign investment, and become a leader in designing the future of manufacturing, which is what we will turn to next in slide 3. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mary Zuccarello, to begin the specific presentation. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Danny. So I'll just jump right in. The UAE clearly has placed a huge emphasis on manufacturing initiatives. And so I'll run through some of these important initiatives here. First, the National UAE Strategy for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, demonstrates the UAE's commitment to a forward-looking strategy. And then also earlier this month, as part of the cabinet reshuffle that Consul General Shaheen mentioned, the UAE appointed His Excellency Sultan Al Jaber, the head of Abu Dhabi's national oil company, to a newly created position, the UAE Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology. Both the name of this ministry and the appointment of one of Abu Dhabi's most visionary businessmen to its head reflect the importance that the UAE is placing at a national level to revolutionizing industry through the adoption of groundbreaking technologies. Also at a national level, this fourth industrial revolution, launched in September 2017, was created to advance innovation in future technologies in order to strengthen the UAE's position as an advanced industrial hub. They're specifically doing this through advanced robotics and digitization. At the Emirate level, Dubai has launched the Dubai Industrial Strategy 2030, which was introduced in 2016 to make Dubai an international hub for knowledge-based, innovative, and sustainable industrial activities in areas including pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. And of course, in line with this greater industrial strategy, Dubai has really placed an emphasis on its 3D printing strategy, particularly in construction, medical products, and consumer products. And then, as was mentioned in a previous session, the Global Manufacturing and Industrialization Summit, GMIS, was established in collaboration between the UAE and the United Nations Industrial Development Agency, and it's designed to connect manufacturers, governments, NGOs, technologists, and investors in harnessing the fourth industrial revolution. They do this through conferences, roadshows, and events, and right now this is all taking place virtually and can be found online. And of course, we're blasting lots of information about GMIS on our various platforms as well. And then I'll move on to the key players in the manufacturing sector in the UAE. So as mentioned, the UAE Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology plays an important role in drafting legislation and regulations, attracting investment into the UAE, and then supporting high standards. Also, in the midst of the pandemic, the ministry, previously called the Ministry of Energy and Industry, played a critical role in the production of medical equipment and boosting supply and dealing with supply chain issues as well in the midst of COVID. Mubadala Investment Company, of course, is a key player. This is Abu Dhabi's strategic investment arm, and they've invested in several manufacturing sectors, including aerospace, information communications technology, semiconductors, metals, mining, and more. Notably, Mubadala's assets include Strata, which is an aircraft manufacturer. It was created in partnership with Boeing and other major aerospace companies, and they produce composite component structures for aircraft. Recently, they've had to shift, and they actually produced the N95 masks to help deal with the COVID crisis. Then ADQ and Sanat General Holding Corporation is one of the UAE's largest industrial investment holding companies. They operate in metals, oil and gas services, construction and building materials, and food and beverage manufacturing. In March of 2020, ADQ, which is an entity that was established in Abu Dhabi to maximize the performance of state-owned companies in non-oil sectors, announced that it would assume ownership of Sanat. And then Emirates Global Aluminum is the world's largest premium aluminum manufacturer, and they've actually boosted the UAE to the position of 5th largest aluminum producing country in the entire world. The U.S. has built several partnerships with UAE entities, and this is really an extensive cooperation. It forms a central pillar of the bilateral relationship and takes many forms. For example, General Electric signed an MOU with Mubadala, Abu Dhabi's strategic investment arm, and the Dubai Future Foundation, creating the basis for GE Additive to build a microfactory in Dubai. Mubadala has also made a number of investments in U.S. manufacturing companies, including in Global Foundries, the world's leading specialty foundry, which is based in New York's capital region. And then closer to home, of course, Nova Chemicals Corporation, as previously mentioned. And then Strata, of course, and they've been producing N95 masks and actually providing them to other countries. Emirates Global Aluminum also makes significant sales to the U.S. And then moving to the final slide, I'll speak a little bit to how the U.S. companies can get involved in the UAE. So the UAE is involved in a number of trade shows, including GMIS, as I previously mentioned. This is a key forum for discussion, and this year's virtual summit is taking place September 4th through 5th, and is preceded, and actually the digital series will continue past the summit. And these sessions are focused on topics that include health and safety, cybersecurity, robotics, and other applications of manufacturing and fourth generation manufacturing. So when engaging in the sector in the UAE, it's definitely important to bring innovative solutions that are tied into the UAE or a particular Emirate's specific goals. Then also to demonstrate a willingness to contribute to the UAE's development of a broader manufacturing ecosystem by having a presence and supporting education or training on advanced methods. And I know there's a lot of knowledge in this area in Pittsburgh, so that's a huge area for collaboration. Also take the time to build relationships and then use all the resources available. At the Business Council, we help create initial connections for members who then develop these relationships further. We also provide members access to events, and we post on our website, as Danny was saying before, lots of information about various sectors. And we have reports and we have news blasts that give you the details on important updates like the cabinet reshuffle, for example. And then the U.S. Department of Commerce has a U.S. commercial service team based in the UAE that can provide American companies with market intelligence, and they offer this for a fee. So these are just a few ways to get involved. And back to you, Danny.
Can you?
I had to
hear
unmute.
you.
There we go. Yeah, we're good. I'm slow on the buttons, Simin. I don't really have anything else to add at the moment. I know we have a few questions that you might have, Simin, and I'm hoping that there's going to be some questions from the audience. The GMIS initiative is one that we are particularly proud of as well. We started on that and worked with the UAE on that with their very first session that they hosted in Abu Dhabi, and were part of the brain trust, if you will, that helped create it. We're very, very excited about the possibility of the prospect of GMIS coming to Pittsburgh next year. I'm close colleague and friend with Badr Alama, and I know that he is very excited and wants to see this come to fruition. Very, very important initiative. Very, very important for Pittsburgh, for folks like Christopher Mullah and others who are working on this. To again highlight the incredible connection of industry, research and development, tech, and government, as evidenced by your wonderful mayor and his commitment. Bringing those three together in that triangle is what's critical, and that magic doesn't happen in very many places in the United States. I can only think of a few others where that happens, and I think that's why Pittsburgh would be the ideal location for GMIS to come next year and highlight everything going on in the fourth industrial revolution and advanced manufacturing. Back to you, Simin.
Well, thank you, Danny. We have a question that came in. As we look for the potential of GMIS, the Global Manufacturing Industrialization Summit, coming to Pittsburgh, how can the airport be a partner? We are excited about the advanced manufacturing ecosystem that is building on our property, because they're also, our airport is unique and it's doing all kinds of interesting projects and manufacturing projects, and they're creating a World Trade Center, and it's very exciting. And so do you have any words for our member of the Airport Authorities, or is a member of our institute?
Sure. Well, I know that Emirates and Etihad have been in discussion with Pittsburgh over the years about a possible route. Short of that, I know that they have put together really, really good connection routes for folks flying in and out of Pittsburgh to go to the UAE, through Chicago, through JFK, through Washington Dulles. I would expect that if something like GMIS were going to come to Pittsburgh next year, that both of the UAE airlines, for sure, would want to have a much closer connection with Pittsburgh Airport in some way, whatever that might turn out to be. But I would also say, because GMIS is a global project and it's a worldwide endeavor, that I think this will be an amazing opportunity for Pittsburgh Airport, the Pittsburgh Aviation Authority, to broaden its connection with a number of airlines around the world. In that time, I pray and I hope that by next year we're all going to be flying again. I think we're going to see this dark window that we're in right now start to close here in another 6 months. But we all have to take it one step at a time and one day at a time. And I know that there are a lot of people that are really eager to get back to work and get back to flying again and seeing each other face to face. And the UAE Airlines, Etihad, and Emirates for sure will facilitate that and work closely with your Civil Aviation Authority and Pittsburgh Airport.
Thank you, Danny. Let's see. Someone asked about the current state of the GE Additives 3D printing micro factories in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and there have been several articles written about this, these initiatives, and as I understand, the Mubadala is invested, has an interest in GE's additive manufacturing facility out by the airport. We've taken delegations through that facility, giant machines that are manufacturing 3D parts for machinery and even for aircraft. Was wondering if you have anything to mention about that.
I know in talking with GE that there's been some progress and movement made on this. I don't have the specifics. We know the president of GE in the Middle East and his team and his president in the UAE very, very well, and can connect Marina or the person who asked the question with them directly if they want to know more. Mary, do you know anything off the top that I'm forgetting that's come out just recently? I know I talked to Nabil Habayeb a month or so ago on the phone, and he raised this very issue and said that some very important progress was being made. But do you remember anything?
Yes, I've heard the same, just that progress is being made. I can't add any more specifics.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to mention that our region is home to 3 major national laboratories, which is quite unusual for to have 3 national laboratories located in our area. One of them you heard Mayor Peduto talk about, the advanced robotics for manufacturing, and that was a huge investment of a couple $100 million, and also partnering with Carnegie Mellon University on that. We also have the National Additive Manufacturing Institute, which is involved in 3D printing, and that is in Youngstown, Ohio, just across the border, and it's like an hour's drive from here. And that is working on the most cutting edge technologies applied to 3D printing. And then here in Pittsburgh, we have the National Energy Technology Laboratory. So just to have those 3 as these resources in our community is truly astounding. And that there's this ecosystem that feeds upon, we have all of these universities, 36 colleges and universities in our region, and there is just a critical mass of talent. And I've referred in some of our earlier sessions to our, some of our 3 great research universities: University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon University, West Virginia University, about an hour from here. They're also members of our institute, and there's so much going on in robotics and in technology, and just sort of the kind of collaboration that takes place here, which you might not find in other cities to the extent you see here. It's a city that is very, it collaborates, it works together, and there is a strong partnership between our universities and industry. And so, there's I think the fact that GMIS is interested in hosting their grand conference in Pittsburgh is a real statement and testament to what they have found when they came to Pittsburgh on multiple trips following our first trip to the UAE when we brought Mayor Peduto. So that is just tremendously gratifying, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the coming year. Once we put this COVID virus behind us, that is a setback, but nevertheless, business marches on as we believe. And Danny, I can't thank you enough for holding these kinds of webinars. I mean, I'm delighted that we are having this, our webinar, but you have held so many others. Your business council is probably one of the most active you'll find anywhere. And you do a great service for American companies and for the UAE and the companies there. It's fabulous. We can't quite hear you, but
No, I said thank. I was just speaking silently. I said thank you, Simin. I noticed there's a question on your Q&A about about Qatar.
Yes,
Should we try to answer
I was going to ask
that
that next.
Okay.
So for a company looking to do business in the UAE, should we worry about the ongoing dispute between the UAE and Qatar?
So this has been something that's been obviously going on now for the last 3 years. This dispute between it's not just the UAE and Qatar. It's Saudi Arabia and Qatar as well.
That's true.
The Saudis, the Emiratis, the Egyptians, the Bahrainis all have some key grievances that they've leveled against the Qataris that mainly have to do with Al Jazeera, mainly have to do with the Muslim Brotherhood, mainly have to do with things that are on a much higher strategic level, if you will. This has obviously inhibited trade and commerce among the countries, and the ability, if you will, if once you're in the region, to get into Doha and get back and forth. But I have to say that the Emiratis and Saudis have done a really good job of not letting this wash over onto American business and American business interests, European business and European business interests in Qatar. I have no direct evidence of any American company that is doing business in Qatar and any of the other GCC countries being penalized, threatened in any way. And I think the Emiratis and the Saudis and the Bahrainis and others have done a very, very good job of insulating businesses, foreign businesses from that dispute that's going on. Many times I've asked my Emirati colleagues and friends in the government what I should say when this question comes up, and their point is business as usual, nothing new. Yes, it's harder for you to get there from Dubai, or yes, it's harder for you to have a ship to ship something there out of Dubai port, but that doesn't mean you can't do business in Qatar. We're not going to penalize you or hurt you in any way for doing business in both places or in all places.
Right. So do you have a prognosis do you have a hunch about when you think it might end or if it will end?
Well, I don't see it ending necessarily until there's some meeting of the minds on some of these demands, till there's some negotiation and reconciliation. As you know, in the Middle East, it's really, really tough when people start fighting like this. It's tough for people to back down. We're in the midst of that a bit. There was a ruling today or yesterday about the Saudi and the UAE and the Bahrainis air blockade of Qatari airspace. The ruling was in favor of the Qataris. I'm not sure what the next steps are after as that ruling unfolds, but the international court has ruled in favor of Qatar and said that the other countries can't block egress and ingress on the airspace into Qatar. So there's a change. Like many things in the U.S., this might just be slowly fought out in the courts, one step at a time.
Right. Well, no, thank you for that answer, Danny. So I think Mary had alluded to some of the actions that the UAE is taking in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Would you like to elaborate on any of the, how has this affected the sort of advanced manufacturing sector of UAE?
Well, just let me use the example of Strata real quickly to demonstrate UAE innovation. Strata makes advanced composite aircraft parts for Boeing and Airbus airplanes. the UAE and Honeywell started talking literally almost at the beginning of the crisis and decided that they needed to ramp up the PPE across the board in a number of places, and one shortfall in particular was masks. And literally within weeks, Honeywell and Mubadala inked an agreement. Strata is owned by Mubadala, inked an agreement to start reconfiguring some of the production line at Strata for aircraft parts into making surgical masks and personal masks that people could wear. I just think that really underscores the innovative, forward-looking, visionary approach to getting things done. When there's a need, when there's desire, the resources are there, and that I've talked to many times with my friends at Honeywell, Norm Gilsdorf and others who are in charge of Honeywell for the broader region, and they just could not be more complimentary of how the UAE worked with them quickly to pivot to meet a key health crisis demand that was to answer COVID.
Fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. In all of my interactions with the Emiratis that I've had, I find them just so open to new ideas. There's such a sort of a youthful mentality there. Many of them are very youthful, but it's just also the mentality of addressing any problem and not saying, oh no, we can never do that, or we can never do. There just seems to be a flexibility of spirit there that I've found, and many of their ministers, as is their population, they're very youthful population, and I find an energy there that is very refreshing, and I think it's good for business. That kind of thing is definitely good for business. Let's see, have we? Is there anything we need to cover? I mean, you've heard from our mayor all the different robotics and different things that are happening here, very cutting edge stuff. You had mentioned, Danny, about that we might do another a more specific webinar or a virtual trade mission, and I hope we can work on an actual trade mission once this COVID virus is behind us.
I think something that would be
kind of freezing up a little bit. Can you hear us, Danny? So Mary, can you read his mind and tell us what he was going to say?
Can you?
Oh, there you are, Danny. You're back.
Okay, I froze there. I guess I think it would be really useful to follow up sometime this fall, maybe October, November, depending on how your fall schedule goes with your big conference that you have planned, for us to put together an in-depth virtual trade mission that put you and your key companies in front of 3 or 4 or 5 key officials in the UAE at some of these centers of excellence, for lack of a better terminology, to talk about healthcare, AI, and tech. And I think those two verticals with the crossover of AI and tech in the middle and advanced manufacturing, of course, I think all of that, the conglomeration of those broad 2 topics with tech as sort of an overarching thing for all of it, could be a very useful way to, again, build some more awareness, some new connections, to help you then prepare for a face-to-face trade mission that hopefully could occur early in 2021, or as part of Expo 2020, which was going to occur in October of 21, or whatever it is.
Right.
But
Right.
I think we still might have another stepping stone here because of COVID, another rock in the pond that we can step on to get to the other side, to face-to-face.
Yes, here. Totally agree with you. I hope we can actually put an actual delegation together to go over to see the Expo 2020, which, as you heard, has been moved to 2021, fall of 2021. It will run for 6 months. Is that correct?
Right. From October 1 until March 30th.
October 1 to March 30th. So I think that might be a good window to try to put a delegation together from our region, and to to try to build upon some of these friendships, these partnerships that we've been working on. I think it's I'm very excited. So I just are there any closing remarks you would like to make, Danny, before we adjourn?
Why don't I turn that over to Mary to make closing remarks?
Sure. So I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to share a little bit about the Business Council and more about the UAE. And we really look forward to future partnerships and collaborations. I know both the UAE and Pittsburgh share this focus on advanced manufacturing, and I think a lot can be done in the future. So we really look forward to supporting the companies in Pittsburgh as part of that process.
Well, we do too, and thank you, Mary, for your presentation, and Danny, thank you for being part of this virtual webinar, which was in 3 parts. We heard from His Excellency the Consul General in New York, Consul General Shaheen, this morning, and then we had a health vertical, and then now the advanced manufacturing. And Danny, there's really no one I'd rather work with than you on some of these things, and I salute you for all you do to build these kinds of ties between the United States and the UAE. I also like to thank Maria Wagley on my staff, and Marina Lorenzini have been helpful, but Maria is my right hand, and I don't know what I'd do without her. So I do want to thank all of you for participating, those of you who've tuned in, and we look forward to more such either webinars or in-person kinds of things. Danny knows we're always looking to host delegations here. You brought a lovely delegation from Sharjah not that long ago, one of the Emirates of the UAE. And we look forward to more such connections. And thanks to all of you again.
Take care, Simin.
All right, you too. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.